We're doing a special celebration here for Awakening Together's 10-year anniversary. Our 10-year anniversary was, as Sana said, July 21st of 2023. And what we're going to do first is start this. We're doing this, of course, in place of the weekly gathering. And what we're going to do first is start this the way we usually do, and that is to ask Sana to play our opening song, and we will greet one another on the chat board and might want to say where you are, what the weather's like, and just say hey to everybody. As we started that process, I was reminded that my recollection is the first one who suggested that that's how we greet one another on the board way back when we were in Pal Talk was Dove. Dove suggested that we say where we're from, what the weather was like, and we've been doing that ever since. So that's fun. What I feel to do now is to read our statement of purpose. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. Now we will take a moment for prayer. Close your eyes and join me. Father, we are so grateful for the opportunity to join together today in the way that we do on a regular basis. We are so blessed to have this space, to have each other, and to have the teachings that you have given through this organization and through Regina, so that we can come to a real realization of ourselves as the one true self. We give gratitude as we move forward into whatever path you would lead us on, in whatever way you would lead us from here. Thank you, Father. Amen. And again, thank you all for being here for this special celebration. Before I turn this over to our moderator, Reverend Jackie Walden, I just want to say that we are going to also begin in celebration of our 10 years. We are also going to begin playing testimonial toasts. We have created a series of videos of mini interviews, or toasts we're calling them. Julie Butler and Helen Avery interviewed several of our members as a commemorative way of celebrating this 10 years. And we're going to start those today. And we've got about, what is it, Sana, 3.5 hours? 4 hours, yeah. And Sana knows exactly how long it is, because after they did the testimonial toast interviews, Sana compiled them into the videos. So there's 3 different videos. We will play them when we get an opportunity. When folks are unable to be present for their programs, we'll play snippets. Then we're going to play it on Awakening Together Radio, and we will likely begin playing those at the end of this service today, depending on how much time is left. But look for those. They're really sweet. It's just really fun to hear everyone's perspective on their journey with Awakening Together. So now, without further ado, I will turn this over for our panel discussion to Reverend Jackie Walden. Jackie.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Good morning, everyone. I just like to pause to see how many people are going to remind their faces that they're happy to be here this morning with a smile. Can we do that? All right, cool. Well, again, I want to just take a chance to welcome everyone to this portion of our service this morning. We're doing things a little bit different, but yet very informal. We're going to have a conversation. This is the 10th year anniversary for us. So much to be grateful for. And really just talking about how it all got started. right? Like we know that if it weren't for vision that came through the heart of Regina and then the founding members and the trustees, you know, it's why we're here, because that vision did come through. It was birthed. And so we want to hear a little bit this morning from the people who were there at the beginning, at the starting line. And so I'm going to just say, I'm going to call names and ask you to wave because I have 3 screens here. Just want to make sure I can see everybody. So we have Dove Fishman. Give us a little wave there, Dove, so everybody can see you. Thank you. And then Dave Hempful. There you go. I see you. And then Nikki Dobson. There's Nikki, Regina. We can all see Regina. And Jacqueline, of course. Everybody can see her. And then Lynn Johnson. There's Lynn. All right. Well, these are the fabulous, wonderful people who are going to help us hear a lot more about the history of Awakening Together. And so I'm going to get us started. And you know, Regina, I have to start with you, right? I have to go with you first. Because as the founder of this spiritual community in which this whole wonderful community was birthed, you know, I can recall many times listening to your teachings and you kind of recounted how that all happened. But for anyone who's new, who might be listening in or may listen over the radio, can you just kind of walk us back a little bit? And let's start with inspiration. Like, what was that inspiration that birthed Awakening Together community?
I'm on my phone, so I'm a little bit handicapped because I don't usually come in on my phone. But I thought it was so funny when I came to log in this morning, Zoom will no longer let me on my computer. It says I have to upgrade to come into the meeting. And then when I upgrade, it gives me an upgrade error. So, you know, I'll have to figure all that out later. But that happened just as I was coming in this morning. So I thought, well, at least we have the phone. You know, it's interesting that you ask, what was the inspiration for Awakening Together? Because sometimes I do feel inspired to do things, you know, but in this case, believe it or not, there wasn't inspiration. I would have to say in this case, there's a difference between inspiration and guidance. Because what I felt when the guidance came was an upset stomach, fear, absolutely not wanting to do it. So see, that's not inspiring, right? So there is sometimes inspiration where you feel inspired to do something. And sometimes there's guidance where the guidance is pushing you outside of your comfort zone. The guidance is taking you in a place where you don't want to go, and it doesn't feel inspiring. So I think that's really important to say. What happened for me was, you know, the foundation for the Holy Spirit already existed. Dove Fishman, Phil Frisk, and I founded that way back in April of 2006. And for the most part, that was a Regina show, right? I mean, literally, it was Regina's teaching, Regina's books, which at that time were NTI and the Teachings of Inner Ramana. And I taught in ACIM Gather, which was David Fishman's platform. And I never considered a change from that. But what happened was I was guided to take a year of increased silence, which was when I started the 7 Steps to Awakening. And what happened during that year of increased silence was I really stepped away from a lot of work. I only did the bare minimum. I stepped away from social interaction. I spent a lot of time while my daughter was at school. I spent pretty much all of that time alone in contemplation. So it was a very different kind of year. I think I might have had an Israel trip that year, and I think I might have done a little bit of teaching in ACIM Gather, but it was really a very reduced, a lot of time alone. And it was at the end of that time alone. And so in December, I started this in January, it was in December when the guidance first came to start a church. That's really all the initial guidance said. And it was really the word church that I had a very strong reaction to. And some of you may understand that. Some of you may also have these reactions to church, religion, things like that. And so I had a very strong reaction to church. And in fact, what I literally had to do to help talk myself into following the guidance was I had to look up the meaning of the word church. And what I found that the meaning of the word church was an assembly. It could be initially, the initial word in Greek, it could be an assembly for political reasons. It could be an assembly for spiritual reasons. You know, it's changed with time, right? Now church always means religious. Didn't initially. In fact, I forget what the Greek word was, but of course it wasn't church. I actually looked up the Greek word, and it really was just an assembly of people with a common purpose. That was the definition. And that helped me to breathe. That helped me to accept it. Because I thought, okay, I can start an assembly of people with a common purpose. So it helped me get past the word church a little bit. And then there was another day after you could see that's when I accepted the guidance, because I really was resistant. So that's when I accepted the guidance. And then there was another day somewhere in there in December after I accepted the guidance, and I was just up in my kitchen. Probably, it seems like I was with Danielle, but I don't remember real clear. Seems like we were just talking, but I don't remember real clear. But all of the sudden, just like without me even thinking about it, the purpose and the 5 core values started coming. They just, just like a channeling type of experience. I just started to hear them in my mind. And because I was standing in the kitchen, I actually grabbed a napkin and an ink pen. And so our purpose and 5 core values were initially written on a napkin in the kitchen. That's how quickly they came. And we did have a board then, because we already were a nonprofit, the Foundation for the Holy Spirit. And so I took the proposal to the board to start a church. And I don't remember what I said to them about it. I remember there was even a little resistance on the board. Not everybody was excited about the change. So I shared whatever I shared at the time. And by the end of the meeting, the board approved this change from Foundation for the Holy Spirit as really a Regina Dawn Akers nonprofit to this assembly of people for a common purpose, or a church. And so in January, we began the work. Now, I don't know how much further you want me to go. Is that all you want right now? Or
No, I want you to continue. We want to hear the whole story.
Okay, so I'll continue for a little bit. So what was really interesting, and it's so funny because I don't actually remember meeting Jacqueline. Isn't that funny? I can't tell you the first time I saw her. I know that I met her then husband, Tom, first. Tom moved to Pueblo. Jacqueline did not right away. And so I got to know Tom a little bit. At some point, Jacqueline showed up, and I don't even remember the beginning of my relationship with Jacqueline. What I do remember is that in January, when we started the work, all I knew was that church was a legal entity. And the one who determines whether you are a church or not is the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. But I knew nothing else. And then there was Jacqueline. So, she was just there. I think she had recently moved to Pueblo. I really don't remember. But she was there. And she was a lawyer. And not only that, she had helped another nonprofit turn into a church before. And she just knew what we needed to do, where we needed to look for more information. I just think it's amazing that Jacqueline just showed up just when I needed somebody with that knowledge. And in fact, I'm going to share something with you from NTI. Now, this came way back in June of 2005, when I was, around the time that I was being guided to leave my job, move to North Carolina, all that kind of stuff. That's when NTI started coming. The first 5 chapters of NTI, or the first 4 chapters of NTI, were actually written in Massachusetts. And then the 5th chapter of NTI was written after the move to North Carolina. But I always see the first 4 chapters of NTI, which are very, very short, as the overall guidance telling me how to start this change of, basically living in the world to a life of guidance. And let me see if I can remember which chapter this is in. I think it's the first chapter. Hopefully I'm not reading the wrong chapter, but fortunately it's short. I think it's chapter 1 and chapter 2 together. Yeah. So chapter 1 says, Joseph had a question in his mind and he was unsure about what he should do. Although he had a thought as to what he should do, he did not consider it decided. He left his mind open because he was unsure. And in his choice to remain open, he asked for wisdom, and the wisdom was given him, and he recognized it, and he did as it asked. This is a symbol for you to follow in all things. Ideas may come, but if you do not know they are of me, consider them not decided. Be open to new guidance, but do not worry if different guidance does not come. If you do not feel clearly that you are to do something different than that which you thought to do that which you thought to do and trust it is from me. So this is a part of how we move forward, because the guidance came to start a church, but the guidance wasn't there channeling, telling us every little step of what to do. At this point, the human power comes in to follow the guidance. And so one of the things we decided was that we were going to let the law be our guidance, and we were going to follow the law. And whatever the law said we needed to do, we were going to do unless we received specific guidance differently. So, as Jacqueline came on board, then Tom came on board, and then I think maybe Dove came on board, and eventually Lynn came on board, and other people like David and Nikki. As all these people began to come on board, what was really coming on was a lot of human thinking, human trying to figure out, human decision making, right? But at the same time, we needed to leave it open as we were making these human decisions, so that if we were starting to head in the wrong direction, if we really felt strongly that this wasn't correct, we needed to be open to the guidance, even as the humans were beginning to build this organization. It also says in Matthew chapter 2, the truth is shown through guidance. The entire route you are to follow is not revealed from beginning to end all at once, but it is revealed to you step by step. Trust your Lord, the God within, which guides you. It guides you now. Do not question, where is this taking me? Have faith it is for the good of all, for the purpose of oneness, and it will certainly bring you joy. So what this chapter is telling us is, we don't want to create a 5-year vision for Awakening Together. We want to stay with the task at hand, right? We don't want to say, where is this taking me? We don't want to say, what are we going to turn Awakening Together into? We want that to unfold. And we just want to stay with the current task. And there were a lot of current tasks based on the law. There were certain things we had to do to qualify as a church. And so we were very, very focused on the current tasks, and we were not determining in advance, any of the things that happened. We didn't have any vision of a retreat house. We didn't have any vision of Zoom. All these things that have happened on their own. We were just taking each step one at a time. I'm going to skip to NTI Matthew chapter 4. It says, with the Spirit you shall examine your thoughts. It is your true spirit that will guide you to choose truly. So, of course, another thing we needed to do as we were building Awakening Together is, just like any other time, is we needed to make sure we were noticing the difference between our own ego and our right mind, and do our very, very best to make the right mind. Because as soon as you start working in teams, there's an opportunity for ego there. And so it was very important as we were building Awakening Together, as we were following this guidance, that we also remember this is all for, each one of us need to remember this is all for my healing, right? And we needed to stay focused on knowing the difference between our ego, our right mind, and follow our right mind. And then I'll read this part of chapter 4. Once the choice is made, meaning the acceptance of the guidance, which I did once I saw the definition of church. Once the choice is made, the time of service will begin. It is in this time that a gathering will begin. You will gather around you that which is needed to serve, and the gathering shall be effortless and without thought. So what this is saying is that all of the people that were needed, which really started with Jacqueline, but Lynn was very critical. We never could have done this without Lynn. Lynn was our first sanctuary director. Dove, it's so funny because when we first started this church, the only thing I knew is that the church couldn't be a physical building in Pueblo because not enough people would be able to join. The people who needed to find it wouldn't find it as a physical building in Pueblo. So I knew it needed to be online. I was in ACIM Gather teaching, but I never thought to take ACIM Together and turn it into Awakening Together. I also wasn't comfortable. I personally was not comfortable with starting another Pal Talk room that might look like a competition with ACIM Gather. I was very loyal to ACIM Gather, very loyal to Dove. So what's really funny is right around that same time when we're like, how are we going to do this? Dove shows up feeling like retiring at that point. And so he wanted to let go of ACIM Gather. So we did take over ACIM Gather, and ACIM Gather is what became Awakening Together. I mean, it was just all effortless, just like this says. Jacqueline showed up effortlessly. Dove showed up donating ACIM Gather effortlessly. Lynn, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong about this, we'll let her speak. I think she was already doing some sanctuary director type stuff with Dove. So when we adopted ACIM Gather, we adopted Lynn, and she became our first sanctuary director. And I'll tell you what, she worked like a horse. She didn't care how many hours she worked. In fact, I often wonder when she slept. I say Lynn worked 24 hours a day, but I know that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but only a little bit of an exaggeration. So our job, again, was just what I've read to you here. Our job was to, even though human effort was going to be here, human decision-making, human questioning, we were always to be open to guidance. We were to not plan the future. We were to stay in the present with the current task at home, the current task at hand. We were to watch our own minds, and we were to trust that everything we needed, every type of resource, human resource, financial resource, electronic platform resource, that everything was going to be given. And that's, in my mind, really how we built Awakening Together. And for after that, I feel like stopping for now. So maybe it's time to hear from somebody else. But that's the gist of the beginning.
Wow, I really appreciate that. I don't know that I knew how much NTI was helping to guide the whole process, right? Like at the very beginning. So that's new to me to hear it that way. And I really appreciate hearing that. And thank you for providing the difference between what's inspiration and what was pure guidance. So it makes me, even think about this conversation a lot differently than, what inspired people, but more so the guidance was what was leading the way. So thank you for that. So I'm going to then pivot on over to Dove and talk a little bit with you. I think we all heard a little bit about, your role and where you kind of started or what you were doing with ACIM Gathering. And so Dove, how about you just kind of share with us your beginning experience with the Awakening Together community? You were running the ACIM Gathering. There was this relationship at the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was going to say the same thing that Regina was saying. Everything happened perfectly and naturally, literally. I had started ACIM Gather back in 2004 as a place for people to gather who wanted to be teachers of A Course in Miracles. It came from my early experience that if you really want to develop trust, the fastest way to develop trust is to teach, to rely upon spirit totally. That's an acronym for trust, and to be willing to step back and let spirit lead the way. I'll tell you how I met Regina. I met her in a most synchronistic way. It was really serendipity. It was perfect because I went to a website. In those days, there was no Facebook. There was Yahoo groups, and we had a group called the Peace of God, and that was something I had started much earlier, and became the forum for ACIM Gather, of course, until Facebook started. That was many years ago, many years later, actually. So at that time, I went to a place that I never visit, which was David Hoffmeister's Yahoo group, because he didn't allow anyone else to actually post on that group. Only David did. And I don't know what made me go on that particular day. Something made me go there, and I don't know what it was. And I see this posting by a woman named Regina Dawn Akers. And at that time, she was still in Boston in the corporate world. And the writing was so good. It was so good. I wanted to get her to start writing for our group, which was the Peace of God. And it was really not too many ways of getting in touch with her, like in those days. But I did manage to find her in Boston and invited her to please write for the Peace of God, which she said she would. I invited her to teach, and she said, "Well, I'm not really ready for that just yet." But in May of 2005, which was our second year, she said, "Okay, I'm ready." And we gave her, I think it was a Sunday night in May. And as she confessed, she said the first time she taught, she had some butterflies for the first time that she was teaching. But she found very quickly that teaching allowed her to step back and listen to a higher voice. She was listening to the Holy Spirit. And within 1 year, even though she only started with one session a week, she was doing 3-4 sessions a week because she realized the value of teaching. And she came to me in 2006 and said, "Do you mind if I do this thing called the Holy Spirit's interpretation of the New Testament?" And even though it didn't seem to be like A Course in Miracles, my own guidance, my own values was to value the person more than the form. So even though a few hardcore ACIMers said, "What are you doing? That's the Bible. What does that got to do with A Course in Miracles?" But we went ahead and did it, and she did. She shared each of the 41 Gospels over the next 2 years, and Phil Frisk and I helped her through that. And I remember one of the things I did do is help with finding a publisher, which actually came through Nuke Sanchez, who had a publisher in England. And when I found out that this publisher was publishing her work, I said, "Regina, that's a perfect person to publish." And that's how NTI did get published. And Regina and I was co-teachers on the, we all know Rev Tony used to have ACIM conferences, and she was my co-teacher in 2009, I think in San Francisco in 2011. And it was in 2013, a lot of things happened in 2013. That was, I remember riding back from the conference on the bus going to the airport. I had said to Regina, I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and I'm getting to that particular. I started when I was 64, 65, and now I'm like 73, 74. And I said, I think it's time for me to retire. I'm looking for someone. She said, well, I'll take it. So it happened that naturally. She said, I'll take it. And that was in 2013. Nature also came in at that time. I was diagnosed as having cancer at that time, and obviously I couldn't really be doing too much at all. So I was really glad that it all came together perfectly. I was very happy that Regina invited me out to Pueblo to be one of the people to look at coming up with a purpose and the core values, which we all know the core values now. And I was there. That's when I met Jacqueline, and I got to meet Lynn for the first time, even though we had known each other from Gather earlier. I met a lot of people out there, including Dr. Brent Haskell. Thank you so much, Regina, for inviting Brent to that Saturday night dinner, because I had gotten different advices on how to handle cancer. I had a next door neighbor who worked for the cancer institute here in New York, and she said, David, I want you to fight this thing. You have the strength to fight it. And then I had someone like Marianne Williamson said, don't fight your cancer, love your cancer. So I really didn't know what to do at the time. So I happened to meet Dr. Brent Haskell, who sat right down next to me at the dinner. And I said, Doctor, what is it that you think I should do? Should I fight it or love it? He says, well, I agree with Marianne to love your cancer. And that became a way for me to begin to accept, which speeded up my healing. I only needed 2 months of chemo, and I was actually told that I didn't need any more. I was cured after 2 months because it came from accepting instead of resisting. So that was really very, very important for me. And then I was very glad that I was able to, Regina and I alternated on Sundays. We were doing the teaching for about 2 years on Sunday mornings until they had a graduate class of ministers. And I was so happy when Reverend Gloria said, I really would like to teach. I said, Reverend Gloria, you can have my place of teaching. And she took my place on Sunday mornings. And I think that's, pretty much what I wanted to share. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Dove. Wow. There was so much there I didn't know. And just, wow, so much history there that you shared with us. And really appreciate your adding your insight there and how it all got started, especially your input with the, establishing the purpose, establishing, the core value and the song that we used today at the beginning of our services, right? So glad that you had made that suggestion, because I actually love that song. So thank you for that. I don't have a set order. So I'm gonna jump over there to you, Jacqueline, and talk a little bit to you. And I just want to kind of step back a little bit about something Regina said about how everything and everybody came, right? Like perfect timing. And how I feel one of my takeaways from what she said there was like, we talk a lot about allowing all things to be as they are, right? Like we don't have to get in there, drive this car and try to make things happen. And you and the history that you brought here, Tom, and how all of that came into being is a perfect example of that. So let me step over here to you and just talk a little bit about your history and how you started. Now, Regina says she doesn't remember. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do remember. Can you talk a little bit and share a little bit with us about your history and how you came into being here?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You just never, ever know what anything is for. And that's why it's just so important to be in acceptance. Tom and I were in another organization. We were with David Hoffmeister's group, and, the connections there again. So interesting, because that's, of course, the organization that Regina started with. We just heard Dove tell us that. But at any rate, Tom and I were in this organization, and it was starting to wear a little thin. It was time to go. Tom recognized that before I did. and went to a study with the scribe with Regina, and had no intention after he got there of coming back. So I followed him relatively shortly thereafter. And I remember the day that I met Regina. Regina, we met on Tunnel Hill Road for a hike. And it was very impactful for me because the organization that I had been in was just very different, kind of a top-down sort of thing. And I remember when I got there, I asked Regina some question, like, I don't know, what's the meaning of life, or what does God want from me, or, some minor question. And Regina said, I don't know, I'm just here to hike. And I went, oh my goodness, but just because the authenticity, just the genuine, I'm here for you. I'm here to be a friend to you. But hey, you just got that, hey, we are equals thing from the first second, and we became fast friends after that. There's just something in my heart that has always pulled me towards Regina. And I'm really, really grateful to have had the opportunity to be on this path with Regina. A couple of things that I wanted to say was, Regina was talking about following the guidance and how the guidance came through NTI, and she gently shared that with everybody who was there at the time. But it wasn't like, here, look, here's the guidance and here's how it's going to go. It wasn't that at all. She has always led by example. And, you could feel whether you were getting in line with that, with the guidance and with the movement and with the purpose, or whether you were off. And particularly back in those days, there was a lot of times when I was off, but Regina kept us all on course. And I loved how she talked about how it was just working on one task, and then this task, and this task, and getting these things together for the IRS, and this task, and this task. And yet, again, all in purpose. It really was training us all into how to live a life that was about something else than, the little self. It's just, this is how, one foot in front of the other. I had not heard that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were a guide as to how to change to live this new life. I love that. Now I'm dying to go over there and look through it again. But I can see how that was true, and how her guidance and her demonstration of what that meant really gave me the opportunity to begin living the new life that I wanted to live. Let me just see if there's anything else that I wanted to say. Yeah, and one more thing. Yeah, and you never ever know what anything is for. I had helped Hoffmeister's group with their transition from a foundation to a church. I didn't know at the time what that was for, right? I was just doing what was to be done at the time, and that was very, very helpful in this transition. I will say that when Regina called and said she wanted to start a church, I went, oh, that is not what I had in mind. I thought I was moving away from that sort of thing, but what I was really, really moving into was this opportunity to discover how this organization, this purpose of finding God, of finding the one true self, how that could be done with an assembly, as an assembly of equals. Just miraculous. Because that's not how the world works. And that's not how I thought the world worked. And what I see is that is how love works in this world. And it was just an amazing thing to see that this was something we could accomplish as equals. It was just, and not even that, accomplishes. It's just an opportunity to see how love moves in the world when you allow it to do so.
Beautiful. Jacqueline, thank you. I think you started your conversation just with saying you never know what anything is for. anything. And the way this whole conversation is weaving itself, like, wow, like, you just said yes. And thank you for saying yes. So I'm going to hop over here to David Hemphill. David, there you are. Good morning,
Hello.
David. It's so
Good
wonderful to
morning.
talk to you. Come on, jump into the party here and go back down memory lane with us and talk a little bit about how you got started with Awakening Together.
Yeah, well, what an interesting question. And it's so nice to hear everybody. It's been a decade now. I was very young when I went into Awakening Together. I was still in high school. I was still a minor. I was 16 years old. And it's incredible. We haven't heard Nikki's story yet, so she'll get to tell hers. But I came in through Nikki, and Nikki had helped me whenever I was a teenager, and I was suffering from what I later learned to be some mental illnesses and then got healed, which was great. All through Awakening Together. Sometimes I feel like so lucky. I feel sometimes like I got to have this huge benefit from Awakening Together. All these people who spent their last 20 years, 15 years guided and surrendering and doing all these things. And I'm like 16 and I just show up and I'm like, hey, everybody. What is this? Oh, you want me to be on a board? That's nice. And I remember there was some reasoning to it, though, I'm sure. We had a Facebook group at the time, which, Facebook had always been around because that's how old I was. And we had a Facebook group, and I was just writing in there. I'd always loved to write, and these people were like talking about spirituality and like healing. And I didn't know what any of those words are or what any of that meant, but I knew that this woman, Nikki, had came into my life and changed everything from a life of like suffering every single day and not really even seeing kindness to know how to do it. And then I go to like this group and there's people and they're talking about like how to be kind and how to be happy. I have never seen anyone talk about how to be happy. So like I start writing in this group and I meet I kind of like Nikki's in meetings or something and I'm kind of like walking behind her. I'm hanging out with her kids. I'm just one of her kids, and I think Regina sees me at that time and I'm like, oh, is that the woman in the group? And eventually I think I'm not sure how exactly it happens, but we're writing the messages back and forth and I'm just called at the deepest heart level, just called, what is this thing that Regina and Nikki are doing? Like, how come my whole life has hurt and they're over here smiling? And like when they look at me, it's like I'm smiling. I don't even know what's going on. So I start to say, hey, I want to be involved. Can I join? I probably asked, knowing me, I don't quite remember, but I probably did something along the lines of, I want to be involved. Can I put my nose in this? And eventually I got in. I got to be able to do the meetings with everybody. And Jacqueline was a lawyer and doing all these things, leading us, and Regina was channeling these messages or the guidance or holding the space. And I was like, well, I'll take some minutes. All right. And I remember they got skimpy after a while. I had maybe 4 or 5 sentences for our whole 2-hour meeting. And it was a growing process for me at the time. I will give myself credit for one thing. I think out of everything I did do, I always held purpose. And there's one thing I've kept in my life too, is a very single-minded purpose and focus on what it is I'm here to do and why. And so, my story with Awakening Together actually kind of starts a little bit towards the end of Awakening Together getting founded. So I had just joined and they were like, oh, there's this document, like you got to sign it. So I signed it and I think we were like right on the cusp of changing over. And so I kind of came in, excuse me, got some allergies. I kind of came in and we were setting up the website. I remember getting our platform going. And I think probably the biggest part of Awakening Together, at least for my journey of it, was the ministerial preparation program, which us as founding members went through it for free in that first year going through. And I remember, we said we were going to use the law as guidance. Well, I remember that we were looking at the different laws in the United States for what does the ministerial preparation program have to require from someone to join. And it was like, oh, you got to express an interest. So we wrote an essay. We had to be 18. I was 16. But we kind of read through it, and it probably Jacqueline was the one who noted, and it's like, well, actually, it says you had to be 18 to graduate, not to join. So it was really cool. I turned 18 2 months before I graduated, and becoming a minister was the first thing really I ever did with my life after being a minor. So that's my story with Awakening Together. I think, again, probably the main contribution I really had, if any, was to hold purpose and be very focused. But other than that, I was the beneficiary of such an amazing amount of talent and surrender from these people that came before me.
Wow, what an amazing story to hear, David. But I mean, you said, your contribution was to hold purpose. That's a very big contribution, I should say. That is not a little bitty thing to do. And after turning 18, and then did you become a minister then?
Yeah. So it was May of 2015, I believe.
Yeah, come on, that's pretty ooh, okay, I'm gonna be a minister at 18. All right, cool. Thank you for that. Appreciate hearing your history there, which really kind of segues me over to Nikki, right? Since she kind of, was the catalyst for you coming and being a part of it. Nikki, let's chat with you a little bit and talk about, I know Regina mentioned that you were like the first sanctuary director and that you contributed greatly in that way, but how else? Did you share?
That actually was Lynn.
Lynn, I'm sorry, my apologies, Lynn. I got my name mixed up. Don't want to give you a job you didn't do, Nikki. So tell us about the jobs that you did do, or maybe the role that you played in the history.
Yeah, I'm going to back it up just a little bit because how I ended up in Pal Talk or A Course in Miracles, I began a prayer. I was just listening to a speaker the other day, and he was like, be careful what you pray for, right? And I began a prayer of surrender. I'll go where you will have me go. I'll do what you will have me do. And I really genuinely meant it. And I was suffering and I was in a lot of pain. And although it was an act of surrender, I still had attachments to no religion, no, right? Like I still had in my mind, like, I will have none of that. And somehow or another, I ended up with NTI at the end of 2007. And when I ordered it, it was purchased through Amazon. But there is no way that I ordered it on purpose because anything to do with religion was terrifying to me. My husband had a book that I threw away that at the beginning of 2007 that had ideas of spirituality, and I wasn't going to go there. And so anyway, I get NTI. I start looking to find out who this lady is. And I find out about Pal Talk, and I find out about Dove. And I do a little bit of sharing within Pal Talk, but I really connected to Regina's speaking, which has always spoken to that clarity. And I thought it was her that had it. And I always had a habit of thinking that she was giving it to me. I didn't know, not quite yet. And I worked at a casino/bar, and I used to go and hide so I could listen to Regina talking in Pal Talk. Like, people would walk by and I'd turn it down real low so they and at that time, my mind thought that spirituality or where I needed to go, I couldn't experience that inside of a bar. I thought it meant certain types of careers or certain type, you know what I mean? Like I really had an idea that soon was to be shattered. But I went through A Course in Miracles program many years later. I can't think of what year it was, with Regina and some other people. And somehow or another, Regina and I became partners. You're supposed to only be partners one time, and we kept ending up being partners. And one thing that I started seeing is that when I surrender my mind chatter, clarity would come through. And the next morning, Regina would share her clarity, and it would be so similar. And so I started being able to see that clarity wasn't Regina's, right? Like that was amazing to me. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit, but that gift was already there. It was already present, that surrendering that mind chatter, surrendering those false beliefs about the world, myself. And we go to, Dove started talking about a dinner that I'm pretty sure I was at as well, but we fast forward to Santa Barbara, and Regina pulled me aside and shared with me that she was about to be sick, but she felt very clear that a church was to be established. I thought Regina had lost her damn mind. Oh, I'm not supposed to swear in here, but I'm pretty sure I was like, I've been around a lot of people that would say, Spirit tells me this, Spirit tells me that. And I'm thinking, there's some confusion going on. And I saw that she wasn't confident in it. Does that make sense? It's not, she was confident, but she wasn't like, I'm about to start a church. And just like I had been taught to surrender the mind's chatter, I did it with this as well. You know, I did it with this, remembering that clarity, truth had spoken through everything. And it was my unhealed religion issues, which was later to we started to study religious texts. Like, who would have ever thought I was going to open up religious texts with Regina and start seeing that clarity is in everything, because clarity is always here, always present. And I'm just, I send people to Awakening Together all the time. I'm grateful for the gifts that Awakening Together continues to give, and continues to give to myself as well. There's just so many parts of Awakening Together and establishing Awakening Together, and watching how the mind really had different plans, and I'm not that, and you're not that. And it was just, it was a beautiful journey to get there. And it's so great to see everybody and hear everybody. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful. And I love what you said. It really touched me about surrendering the mind chatter, and clarity comes through, because the clarity that you said Regina was talking to was the clarity you already had.
Yeah.
It's just totally, totally beautiful. Thank you for that. So I'm going to hop on over here to Lynn and give you your job back that I gave to Nikki temporarily. But Lynn, we would love to hear from you, your history, just give us a little bit about your history with Awakening Together.
Okay. All right. Good. So this has been great. I have just been, it's so cool to hear everybody and to see, oh my God, David, Nikki, oh my God, I love you guys so much. I miss your being in my life. Although I hear from David a lot because he's on Facebook. But anyway, so my history with Awakening Together is my history with Regina. I was a student of A Course in Miracles. I came in through Gary Renard. So I had a Yahoo group also that was The Disappearance of the Universe. I still have that group. Lots of people still come and talk about Gary Renard and his work too. But I was in that group, and Dove Fishman was in that group. And he would post things sometimes. And then Regina came in the group, and she was starting to post things as well. And we had a real strict rule in the group that any other teachings other than Gary Renard's or Ken Wapnick's were not really promoted in our group. And so I think our leaders in our group kind of hopefully kindly, but maybe not, ask her to not be posting that type of stuff in our group anymore. And I believe she was really gracious about it. I know that. Um, but anyway, that's how I knew of Regina, and I knew of Dove also. But I didn't know of Pal Talk or any of that. And then one day, one of my friends on Facebook sent me a message and said, "Did you know Regina Dawn Akers just moved to Pueblo, which is the town where I live?" I'm like, "What?" Regina Dawn Akers moved to Pueblo. What is up with that? And she can maybe tell her story about why she came to Pueblo. All I know is that she had a dream. The Holy Spirit in the dream told her to move to Pueblo, and that she had to actually go and look to see, what the heck is this? Where is this place? But she came here. And so, because she was listening to her guidance, and that was moving here from North Carolina, which, I mean, that was crazy. She had already moved to North Carolina, uh, under, Spirit's guidance. So coming here to dusty, dry Pueblo Desert, Colorado, just seemed like an insanity to me, actually, even though I live here and I love it. But so I got a hold of her. He gave me her number, I think, or something. I don't even know. I called her up and said, wow, I'm excited that you moved here. And she said, "Why don't you come out for lunch? Come out to my house for lunch." So I did. I went out on I think it was maybe a Saturday. I can't remember. But anyway, went out to her house and met her there. Bill Free, I believe, was there at the time. Of course, Danielle was there. Debbie was there. She had like a group of people that had come with her to Pueblo, or were here. But so she said, "I'm just getting ready to start teaching the original edition of A Course in Miracles on Pal Talk. Would you like to do it with me?" And I said, "Yes." So, first thing, every Friday, 90 minutes, I would go to her house, we would sit down and we would read the original edition of Course in Miracles on Pal Talk and talk about it. And so that she got me, she's the one who got me to come to Pal Talk. So anyway, as we got to be friends and, learn to, love each other in, very holy relationship way, is all I can say. She had got this guidance to start a church. And I remember exactly, we were sitting in the car at the parking lot at the Center for Inner Peace. And she told me, "I'm getting ready to start a church." I was like, "What?" What about what? But I was like, "Okay, what can I do to help?" So that's it. We started talking, we went into, well, it's going to be online. We have to have a platform. It has to be something the IRS will accept, something that we can prove that people come to, something that we can prove, we have it. Oh, it's open for everybody. I was like, why don't we just do it on Pal Talk? We already have ACIM Gather on Pal Talk. And at the time, yes, Dove was going through some stuff. So it's seemed like the natural thing to do. And so we did. We switched over. And in the early days, I won't go into all there were conflicts. It was, like you take a rough stone and start, turning it into a gem. You're going to be doing a little chipping away of things. So there were some conflicts, and there were some folks who didn't like it. There were some folks who were, there were lots of opinions, as is in the world with ego. But we just, worked away at it. And I just remember whatever it was that Gina needed, whatever help she needed, I was always going to be there to help her. At the same time, she was always there to help me too. And, I went through a lot of stuff. I had an accident, broke my, destroyed my car, broke my knee, all kinds of stuff, almost lost my house. She jumped in and, did something to help me so that I didn't go into foreclosure on my house or have my house auctioned off. I mean, just the kinds of things that people who, would do for each other if they had a basis of love. And that was the basis of everything. No matter what the conflicts, no matter, how many people were upset, no matter how afraid people were, no matter anything, the love was the driver. That was the driver for everything. And that was the thing that made it work. And I see it now when I come to Awakening Together. It's always there. And I think it comes from the heart of the founder. And so all props to you, Regina, for listening to your guidance. And that's really what I got to say.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Lynn. Props to you too. I mean, following your guidance. You kind of reminded me at the beginning there, like that friend you have that's like, you're going to do what now? But I'm going to go with you. You're going to do it? Okay, let's do it. I got your back. You remind me of a good friend like that. So just all feeding into what Regina started talking about, like all the people come, everything that you need comes, right? And there you were. So thank you for that.
And not only there I were, she rescued me.
Yeah.
Because I was in a little podunk town where there was nothing, and I didn't have a lot of contact with people. I was really pretty new to the course. And she came for me, and that's what Dove will tell you. That I think she'll tell you that she came for me. So
thank you for that too, right? Because you did mention how throughout all of it, love was the driver. Your love, her love, all through and through. So thank you. And one other thing you said that really touched me was like just even in the how all of this came together. It was not without, like you said, some little things having to be chipped away, ego, dealing with that. So, but yet and still love drove it all. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you. So I have a few more questions, and I'm going to make this part a little bit random. So it'll be, I'll just pick a person since, you guys are a real shy group here. So my next question is about the effect that Awakening Together has had on your spiritual journey. So let's move forward from when it was founded, right, to as you have remained involved with this community. What has that been like for your spiritual journey now? I mean, today, how it's led you to where you are. So where's Dove? Dove, I'm going to start with you this time. All right.
First, I think so much credit has to be given to Regina and to Jacqueline for bringing us to this particular point. The organization. I mean, I think that the main difference between the original ACIM Gather and what Awakening Together is the organization that Regina was able to put together. Those years, I think it was 2013, 14, 15, 14 and 15, where almost every other Sunday I got to be the minister here along with Regina, and that did so much for me. I mean, to be a minister every other Sunday at a real church, that's a lot of powerful teaching and stepping back and letting the Holy Spirit speak to me and through me. And that's what trust is, to step back and let the Holy Spirit speak to you and through you. I know that everyone here who's gone through the ministerial MPP basically knows that, because once you take your place among the teachers, you begin to really feel Spirit speaking to you and through you. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Dove. Jacqueline, what effect has Awakening Together had on your spiritual journey?
Oh my goodness. It's I've been my father was a preacher and we grew up around these ideas. But you say, what effect has it had on my spiritual journey? It's really feels like the whole of it. Yeah. Everything was so different then. And I didn't know, I didn't know I was all about Jacqueline 24/7, but boy, was I. And it's really, really helped me learn to let go of Jacqueline. Just this I'm trying to think what Dove's acronym is for trust, total reliance. Anyway, just this total reliance on something other than me and what I can do. And it's just been an incredible journey. And Regina has been there demonstrating from day one. Yes, we have a goal in mind, and yet, we turn all of this over. The goal of building this organization, we turn it all over. It's not self-driven, but it's big S, capital S, self-driven, and just the surrender to that again and again and again. That's a path that, to rely upon Spirit totally. Amen. Thank you, Dove. It's been a journey in that, in learning to rely upon Spirit totally, and that just blossoms and blossoms more and more as I go through this process. And I am forever grateful to Regina, to Dove, to all of you, to Awakening Together, for allowing me to be on this journey in this way at this time.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Regina, I'm going to ask you, it feels a little interesting to ask you this question. What effect it's had on your spiritual journey, because I believe all of what we do has been a result of your spiritual journey. But I will ask you anyway, and you can just share, how it all impacted your spiritual journey.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have a typical answer that I give, but right now a different answer is coming up. So I'm going to move into the different answer. First of all, I think it's important to look at where I was in the spiritual journey when this guidance came along. When I was in North Carolina, the years that I was in North Carolina, that was the primary purification process. So, so many false beliefs and attachments and things were let go of there. But of course, not to the level of perfection, but to the level of, you moved up to another place on the path, right? There was a change there. When I came here, I was at a level of, relative peace. But what started to feel like was happening was that because of the relative peace and because, I don't know, I focused so hard when I was going through the crap. When I got to the peace, it kind of felt like my focus started to lighten up. And I feel like that feeling that I was starting to, just relax a little and maybe not be so dedicated to my spiritual path. I think that's what propelled me into the year of relative silence in 2012. And as you know, I came out of that into Awakening Together. And what happened when I came into Awakening Together was it brought back the world, even though it's Awakening Together. We were writing policies. We were following laws. You know what I mean? It was like being right back in that workplace that I had been in many, many years ago. And I think what really needed to happen, I had been guided to leave my job at the beginning of the spiritual path. And, I had been writing NTI and working in ACIM Gather and going through that relationship with Laurent, letting go of false beliefs. I mean, everything had a total spiritual focus without a real world in it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, totally.
So I came to Awakening Together, even though it sounds very spiritual to everyone, we were doing very world-like things, right? And so it brought the world back so that I could learn to maintain and continue to awaken in the world, as crazy as that sounds, while doing something that sounds very spiritual. People who know me well know that I was often working 15-hour days. And we're talking about how many years did I do that, Jacqueline? 8 years, 9 years before I retired, right? So it was learning to come into that centered space of peace that I had come to, but now doing it while being in the world. Although it doesn't sound like being in the world, I know, but it was. Suddenly I was on teams of people. We were writing policies where, I have deadlines again. All the MPP that I wrote, the whole time I was writing the minister's preparation program, these founding ministers were taking it. They were like 1 or 2 courses behind me. So it was like being on a train track, right? I had to keep moving. I couldn't stop, right? So it's always been that way. It was always deadline driven. Decisions had to be made. We had Lynn kind of referred to the fact that when we first started, not everybody agreed. The truth is Lynn is always so gentle in the way she speaks. But the truth is we were downright attacked all over Facebook for starting a cult in many different groups, so learning to abide and not get involved with all of that, just, not get involved, let it be there. More stuff came up. There was another time a few years into it when it looked like Awakening Together might collapse, learning to abide with that. So it was coming out of a relative period of solitude into the world. And I remember hearing once upon a time, I don't remember where I heard this. I don't know if it's A Course in Miracles or if it came from something else. And I'm even going to severely misquote it, but the idea will be there. The idea was that you can't awaken in a peaceful garden because it's conditional, right? You're that you need to get back into the world in order to finish your awakening. And in fact, this is exactly what Bernadette Roberts talks about in her book. She talks about how she was a nun, right? And she was a Carmelite nun and she awakened to a certain degree, but then she had to leave that and go back into the world. She got married. She had 4 sons, I think, and I don't even know what else she did, but she calls it going back into the marketplace. But, you have to go back into the world. If you can't be awake in the world, it's not really awakeness, right? It has to be unconditional. So I think that Awakening Together brought the world back to me in a way that was still serving, because my job was to serve, right? That's what I volunteered to do in the very beginning, was to serve. So I was still serving, but it put me back in the world in a way that I hadn't been for a number of years, and allowed my awakening to continue to mature in a way that only the world can bring you to. So thank you for asking.
Thank you for sharing, because I was like scribbling a note, like, wait a minute, I got to write that one down. It always happens with you, Regina. It just does. Love you for that. So, so let me pose that question to Nikki. How's Awakening Together helped you on your spiritual journey? Is she still there? I think she may have. Okay, we'll come back to you, Nikki, because it seemed like I don't see your picture. Lynn, we'll go to you.
All right. Yeah. Wow. How has Awakening Together? Oh my goodness. I think because I was really a newbie to the Course in Miracles when I first joined up with Regina and went through all this. I mean, before that I had, practiced, a form of Buddhism, and, I was a real spiritual person, but didn't have a lot of focus. And what I can't even recount how many things have changed or shifted in me since I first began with Awakening Together, or not, with Regina in general. But I think, it's just given me a lot more focus, a lot more drive to continue, because, as they mentioned, when I was being the sanctuary director, I was working, many hours every day. That's when we first established that I would have a day off, which was a radical. And also that, I was, always constantly striving to give more communication, open up more communication, figure out ways to to help people get more connected. And, like I started the Awakening Together Facebook page. I had never done that before. I did a lot of things I never did before. And it came to me with grace and ease. There was no struggle. There was no trying. It was just a matter of evolving and learning. And it all came from that initial desire to just surrender and join. And so, I look at all these beautiful faces here and some people that I haven't seen for many years, but whom you're imprinted on my soul. This is my Sangha. You are my family, and that's forever. That's forever, no matter what happens in this crazy world. So it's before that I was alone. It was just me here, studying A Course in Miracles and doing an online group. And now I actually have faces and bodies of people that I love and who I know love me. That's a gift. And so that's what it's given me, community.
Wow. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. So Nikki, you stepped away. We were talking about you. We weren't talking about you. We were just going to ask you a quick question, and that is to share with us, how Awakening Together teachings have supported your journey.
I shared some about how, I had so much pain and fear and was going through the purification process. And Awakening Together allowed me to deepen into that clarity that and I call it the pointer because it's not the full truth, but it's the pointer to that. And I just always felt that Awakening Together, Regina, just was a continual process of that, of finding that is there no matter, where I'm at or what I'm doing. I started, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago. I went back to school and opened up a spa, and learning to be able to surrender even every part of that, right? To let go of what I love how Jacqueline was talking about it, like letting go of that me that wants it a different way, that me that says, what about me, me, me? And I don't think that could have happened without that base of Awakening Together, without that realization. It doesn't matter what the chatter, the world is saying, that truth is always present, and that breath, life is always here, and just continuing to do that. So I'm so grateful. There was no mistakes in getting NTI or what, I was looking for my NTI, my original NTI book. My other one is in a note bound, but I flipped open and it said, "You are innocent." And, that was from 2007. And that was something that I didn't even comprehend. Like, what in the world? How is that possible? How is that even? That doesn't even make sense. And now being able to see that in all things, right? And that's what Awakening Together established in me. So thank you.
I love that. Being able to see that in all things, in all people, everything. Thank you, Nikki. I have one more question before I move on to a very special tribute we want to make. So I want you all to assume, just imagine, nobody on this call knows anything about Awakening Together. And you have an opportunity to tell a friend or someone who doesn't know. Well, how would you describe Awakening Together, knowing all the history that you all know and all this history you bring to the table about it? How would you describe that to a friend? And Nikki, since you were the last one I just called on, I'll start with you. How would you describe Awakening Together to a friend?
Well, as you heard David speak about it, I kind of just share, because the way that Awakening Together speaks to me and the programs are always pointing us to our truth. Right. And so when somebody's looking for that place to find that, I guide them, direct them to Awakening Together, because that is such a beautiful place for awakening to who we are.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nikki. Jacqueline, how would you describe Awakening Together to a friend?
Well, I would say that first of all, it's an assembly of equals, joined in common purpose. No, I probably though would start with it's an assembly of equals.
That's cheating. No.
Well, and I just love that, because what I want people to know is that it's all here, it's all inside, and it's accessible by all of us. And gosh, and we say that somewhere, you don't have to go to any special place. You just have to get quiet and be with what's inspired and inspirational in you, and Awakening Together will point you in that direction over and over and over again until you learn that for yourself. Yeah, that's what I would say about Awakening Together. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Dove, how would you describe Awakening Together to a friend?
I put a few things up on the chat already. For me, I would definitely tell anyone to go. It's a great place to go for your spiritual growth. And it's a joining, and the way I spell joining is J-O-Y. It's a joining together of equals. Basically, that is the purpose. We're an assembly of equals. And I think that, that is probably the most important thing, is to recognize that you are an equal. Only equals can enjoy the peace of God. Literally, that's a quote right out of the Course in Miracles. Thank you, Karen Parente. Thank you.
Thank you, Dove. David, how would you describe Awakening Together to a friend?
Absolutely. So thanks for the opportunity. Usually whenever I work with people, it's a very natural thing where they just had signaled some kind of desire to really just to know themselves, honestly. And so when I have somebody in my life who seems like they would want to be a part of Awakening Together, I kind of introduce Awakening Together as this constant opportunity to be exposed to different ways of looking at yourself. I always explain it as a mountain, that we climb this mountain of spirituality, and there's so many paths to go up it. And if you would like to see Awakening Together, you can share and discover your own path and see other people's paths as well. I always use the mountain to think about it.
Love that. Thank you, David. Lynn, how about you? How would you describe Awakening Together to a friend?
I would describe Awakening Together as a assembly of equals. That's what Jacqueline said, and Dove said also. But it's a place where, yes, you can join and actually have real holy relationships, real spiritual conversations, real loving and joyful connections. And it's open to anyone and everyone, no matter what your path, no matter, you could be, Islam, Buddhism, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, you're going to hear about it in Awakening Together. They honor all the paths, and the ministerial program is a great way to go through all the paths and see, not every single one of them, but many of them, to see what they're all about. And so it really, I think it's not just a religious or spiritual organization, it's an educational organization as well. and you can see the variety. If you come on the Sunday services, you can see the variety of the different ministers. You can see the variety of their path. You can see the variety of their spirituality and their personality. It's not just a Regina Don Akers is the main person all the time, every time. Not that way at all. And it really is an open place for you if that's where you want to go.
Beautiful, and thank you. MPP changed my life, so I really appreciate your sharing about that. So, Regina, how about you? How would you describe Awakening Together to a friend?
I have to say that from my perspective of, again, on the day that I first became aware of, I'm going to use the word God, of God as a real thing rather than an idea. I could use the word the Tao, doesn't matter what word I use, but it's something beyond us that is us, but still beyond the ego as a very real thing. Is that day I had that first vision about the passing out of candles. With that experience in my history, the experience of having that vision of passing out the candles, and then everything that happened after that up to this day, which now is 19 years, I'm going to have to say that Awakening Together is God's vision manifest. Like somewhere in God, this vision existed, right? And somehow, I volunteered to, kind of like take the lead. Certainly, as we can see here, I was not the only one, but I volunteered to take the lead in following the guidance and bringing it all together. And then I even followed the guidance to step out, right? And Awakening Together is that vision. Awakening Together is God's vision manifest. God, whatever God is, obviously not the white guy in the sky, but God wanted a place where sincere people could come, be very honest about their spirituality, be very honest about where they're at, and continue in the direction of awakening together, thus the name, without needing to pretend. So in so many organizations, you have to pretend. You have to act more spiritual than you are, or you're in an organization where you have to, surrender to the guru, and it's not even always a healthy surrender. Awakening Together is none of that. Awakening Together is just this place where genuine, seekers and finders join together and respect one another and help one another and listen to one another and are able to share honestly without anybody, telling them they're not good enough. I think that was God's vision. And so I think what we're looking at is God's vision manifest. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, wow. I just want to thank everybody, all of the panelists for your deep sharing with all of us about, the guidance, how Awakening Together came into being. I know it's such a blessing and such a part of my daily life, daily. And I just want to express my true gratitude for everyone just answering that deep, deep guidance from within and said yes to make this all a possibility today. So thank each and every one of you. And so I have just one more piece that I want to share before we close out for the morning or afternoon. There's one more person we want to pay tribute to and pay a homage to, and that is Phil Frisk. Phil transitioned, as many of you may know, Phil transitioned this past June. And he was instrumental and a big part of the founding and contributions to this Awakening Together community. So I want to tell you a little bit about him, about his spiritual life, right? And then I want to share a short story that he wrote with you. So his picture is on the screen there. And Phil has been a truth seeker. He had been a truth seeker on a spiritual journey since the age of 7. And the beginning of his deep interest in spiritual awakening was attending an intensive 2-week workshop in 1976 that aimed to help participants achieve personal spiritual transformation. Now, this led to a renewal of his Christian beliefs and the discovery in 1993 of this book that we all know called A Course in Miracles. Meeting online with the ACIM study group in 2003, he met David in New York and Regina in North Carolina, and all who were also students of the course at that time. In 2005, the three of them formed the Foundation for the Holy Spirit, which was a nonprofit 501c3 organization that promotes spiritual awakening and offers spiritual teachings and resources based on love and forgiveness, and also to support individuals on their spiritual path. What you may not know about Phil is he was pretty savvy with website building skills. And that became an opportunity to build an internet hub for hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. And this led to, that online awakening together that we're all sitting on this morning. Also at that time, there was a 2-year program that was developed to ordain dozens of ministers around the world and to fulfill his college dream of becoming an ordained minister. His favorite memory from his time at Northwest Nazarene College was the motto that was emblazoned on the front of the chapel, which said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God." That's a little bit about Phil's spiritual path. Now I want to share with you a story that he wrote that I just absolutely love, and it's called The Gift. It was a bright sunny day on the campus of Northwest Nazarene College. I was making my way from the library to the administration building. I was starting across the large grassy lawn when a fellow student, Jerry Hull, caught up with me and walked with me. I had always looked up to Jerry, but was never in his league. He and his twin brother, Larry, were stars on the basketball court. They were BMOCs, big men on campus, and they were quite popular. I wondered why he humbled himself to walk with me. I was only a shy nobody. As Jerry and I walked across the field of green, he offered me a candy bar. It was a Snickers bar, my favorite. I knew the value of a nickel in 1958. I had a job to pay for my education and must earn every nickel that I spent. I did not want to take someone else's assets. Nah, I said, that's okay. You go ahead and have it. He stopped and called out, "Phil." I turned around and looked at him. "I want to share this treat with you," he said. When someone offers you a gift, the proper response is to graciously accept it. "Oh," I said. "Very well then. Thank you very much." I took the gift and he produced another one, and we both unwrapped our candy bars and began to munch on them as we kept on walking and chatting. I had a new respect for Jerry. Lesson learned. When someone offers a gift to you, graciously accept it. Decades later, I'm studying A Course in Miracles, and the lesson is emphasized. Lesson 315. All gifts my brothers give belong to me. Each day, 1,000 treasures come to me with every passing moment. I am blessed with gifts throughout the day, in value far beyond all things of which I can conceive. A brother smiles upon another, and my heart is gladdened. Someone speaks a word of gratitude or mercy, and my mind receives this gift and takes it as its own. And everyone who finds the way to God becomes my savior, pointing out the way to me and giving me his certainty that what he has learned is surely mine as well. I thank you, Father, for the many gifts that come to me today and every day from every son of God. My brothers are unlimited in all their gifts to me. Now may I offer them my thankfulness. That gratitude to them may lead me on to my Creator and His memory. That was a short story called The Gift by Phil Frisk. And it was based on an actual incident that happened in his life. So we are remembering Phil, as well as all of our founding members and trustees of Awakening Together. We thank each and every one of you this morning for listening. And I hope it has touched your heart as deeply as touched mine. And so I'm going to pause now and turn everything over to Rhoda.
Thank you. Actually, considering where we are, this is the end of our celebration. Throughout the day today, whenever there's space in the sanctuary, we will be playing the testimonial toasts that Jacqueline described earlier today. And for now, I'm going to hand it back to Sina. Thank you all for joining us for this beautiful celebration. Thank you, Jackie, for such a gorgeous moderation. And thank you, Sina, for making this all run so seamlessly. I will pass it to Sina.
Happy 10 years Awakening Together. Thank you to everyone who participated in this celebration. Those watching now, we are so glad that you're a part of this community. We couldn't be it, do it, have it without you. You can find out more information about our non-dual community at awakening-together.org. And if you want to visit our online church, we'd love to have you on our next service or program. All you have to do is visit our website, click on Online Sanctuary. That's on the main menu bar. And then in the drop-down menu, look for Enter the Sanctuary. Hope to see you there.